Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio. Sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Ellevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. I am Allison Kinney. Let's take a look in what's making agricultural news. A bipartisan group of 47 legislators from both chambers of Congress petitioned the EPA to finalize its proposal for the Renewable Fuels Standard Program, which includes measures to discourage the use of imports into the U.S. biofuels market. The group sent a letter to Lee Zeblin, the Environmental Protection Agency administrator, asking him to advocate for the proposal. The legislators said it represents a common-sense approach that puts American farmers first in line, strengthens U.S. domestic biofuel markets, and delivers tangible economic benefits to rural communities. An EPA proposal in June would change the RFS program to increase the Renewable Volume Obligation, or RVO, reduce the value of the renewable identification numbers for foreign-produced fuels and biofuel components, and reallocate unmet regulatory costs for exempted small refineries to larger ones. The group urged the RIN reduction measure would provide essential support for the farm economy. Also making headlines today, 4 people familiar with the talks told Politico that the White House is delaying its plans to issue economic aid to farmers this week due to the government shutdown. The White House Office of Management and Budget prepared between $12 and $13 billion to be allocated from an internal USDA account. The sources said no final decision has been made yet on the total amount of money that will go to farm aid, and the package likely won't be coming out anytime soon. It's possible the timeline was further delayed because of some of the USDA's political appointees have been placed on furlough during the shutdown. Politico said officials are weighing the possibility of using tariff revenue, the USDA's Commodity Credit Corporation Fund, and other alternative methods to alleviate farmers' financial stress. President Trump tapped the USDA fund to dole out $28 billion in assistance during the first trade war with China. Now let's check in with our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council and your checkoff dollars at work.
Well, in case you missed it because it does not show up on most calendars, this past Monday was designated as National Nematode Day this year, October 6th of 2025, by the SCN Coalition. Now, the soybean cyst nematode is the most destructive soybean pathogen in the United States, with annual yield losses estimated at more than $1 billion. Now, soybean cyst nematode is often underestimated because they can persist in fields without causing any noticeable above-ground symptoms. I had the opportunity to sit down with George Bird. He is an emeriti professor at Michigan State University and served on the first SCN Coalition, and tells us a little bit more about this pest.
The first question, where is the soybean cyst nematode native to? And we came up with the world, China, in relation to that. The second thing we talked about is when was it first detected in the United States? And that was 1954. The next question I asked them is where was it detected in North Carolina? And very quickly after that, we learned that all populations are different, from each other. And then the soybean cyst nematode basically was detected throughout the major soybean growing areas of the United States, and that became the need for the SCN Coalition.
To learn more about this pest and ways to effectively manage it, check out the podcast for the Ohio Field Leader this month. You can find that at ohioagnet.com under the Ohio Field Leader tab. Today's update brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff.
Thanks, Dusty. Now with Halloween coming up at the end of the month, thoughts turn to buying the perfect pumpkin for carving. Do you happen to know which state produces and processes more pumpkins than anyone else? Nathan Johanning, a commercial agricultural educator for the University of Illinois Extension Service, has the answer.
Illinois leads that not only within jack-o'-lantern, but also within the realm of processing pumpkins. Actually, the majority of the processing pumpkins, if you get, say, a can of pumpkin for your favorite pie, bread, whatever, it is probably Illinois grown. And I think as far as actual different varieties of pumpkins, especially when we get into the small stuff and then all the different colors and things, there's probably well over 200 different varieties of pumpkins. And that's just a very loose estimate. I haven't taken account, but there are a lot more varieties than what the average person may realize.
He talks about what makes Illinois a top pumpkin producing state.
There's multiple factors. I think one, on the processing side, a lot of that is driven by where the processing facilities are. So that there's some in the Peoria area, northern Illinois, north central Illinois. There's some areas of processing. So they try to source, obviously, pumpkins fairly close to that due to freight and shipping constraints. However, overall, the reason this area was kind of developed into pumpkin production and many other Midwest states is that we have fairly ideal conditions.
A large part of the yearly pumpkin production heads out of state. Again, that's Nathan Johanning of the University of Illinois. Now let's take a look at your closing markets on this Thursday. Brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Learn more online at seedconsultants.com. December corn closing in today down 3 3/4 at $4.18 1/4. March corn down 3 3/4 as well at $4.34. November soybeans down 7 1/4 at $10.22 1/4. January soybeans down 5 3/4 at $10.38 1/2. December wheat down 3/4 cent at $5.06 1/2. July wheat down 2 1/2 at $5.48 1/4. Now looking to livestock, October live cattle up 117 at $235.02. In October, lean hogs are down 62 cents at $97. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to the Ohio AgNet.